Hello, ladies. If you are, I don't know, anybody in the world or something, and at least at the moment, if you are a association football fan, or soccer as I call it in my home country, or in some other countries, because it's not to say that most countries don't call it football, but they don't just call it football. They usually have like association football or European football. Like they don't really just call it football. The only people who actually call soccer football are people from Europe. That's why they tend to call it European football, you know? And a lot of people, since I live in America, they're like, well, why don't you call it football football? They don't even kick the football egg, football egg. England, shut up. I don't care how much you hate France. That's your problem, not mine. Like, that's not my country's problem. That's your country's problem, not mine, because we don't live with France. You live with France. You live in that continent with France, okay? Like, you're their problem. Like, I don't know. Like, you just hate France, okay? Like, I don't know why. You just do. Anyway. Like, that's all that you freaking do. You just hate on France and then junk on whatever Americans do because they aren't British enough. Like, of course they aren't British enough. Like, what? Well, anyway, basically, if you want some more information about this, I will provide a link to a video that will give some more direct information about it. But basically, we call it football because in our history, originally, what we now call American football, or what you would call American football, or what we just call football, was actually a combination of soccer, as we call it, and then rugby. But rugby is technically a way to say football. But the only difference is the aesthetic. And basically they were very, very similar, but it was a combination of the two. And there were other sports like Gaelic football or whatever that got formed from it. But nothing too much from it. But they do have a similar history, professionally or whatever. But also, they got tired of kicking the ball mostly. Like, they got tired of that idea. But they still didn't really like the idea of having, like, rugby stuff into it. So they formed the idea of just simpler... Like, they still kept the whole kicking the ball thing, mostly, but they made it basically just their own version of rugby. And then after they done that, eventually it split off right around, I want to say, the 40s, 50s, 30s, 40s, 50s into its own sport entirely. And ever since we had a Super Bowl, it's just been its own sport ever since. It's been huge ever since, especially since when the 80s happened. Now, I'm not saying this to be nostalgic or something. I'm just saying this because as soon as 1982 came with that one commercial or something, it's just been really, really huge year after year with the Super Bowl. Like, the reason why I would say soccer or whatever is less popular in the States is because World Cup, yeah, big event, but happens only every 4 years. Super Bowl, once a year. Once every year. If you excuse 2020, I guess. I don't know if they had a Super Bowl for 2020. I think they did, but I'm not sure. Well, anyway, I'll provide a link down below, and yeah. But still, like, we have that big thing, and if it wasn't for the Super Bowl, yeah, the NFL just wouldn't be as popular. And by the way, kicking is very important in American football. It's kind of like, since they don't have goalies, kicking is, it's kind of like reverse soccer where kicking is more rare, but holding it is more common in that sense. But it's not a crappier game. When you don't understand the rules, yeah, it can be really, really, really confusing. But once you at least understand the basics, you're like, oh, that makes more sense. Like, even if, like, you don't want to completely understand it, that's fine. But as long as you understand the basic rules, it's like, yeah, pick your favorite team, bro. Like, at least, like, I'm not saying you should be a hardcore fan or something, but at least have a team so I know what kind of fan you are. If you know what I mean. But, hey, it's a game. Who knows? Maybe it could be, I don't know, maybe you, Europe, or whatever, I'm talking to you, England, could get your own team or something. And then it would have to turn into the, IFL. Because right now it's the NFL. But it could change into the IFL, International Football League or something. I don't know. I don't know. But, please, for the love of this world, please quit calling it egg handball. Especially you, England. I'm not saying, like, all to everybody else who's not from the United States. I'm talking specifically people from England. Like, it's getting annoying, dude. It wasn't funny in the 90s. It wasn't funny in the 2000s. It wasn't funny in the 2010s. And it definitely ain't funny in your era or now. Like, it was for a little bit, like a professional joke for that, like that one time, because it was a unique type of thing. But it just fell off. It just died off hard. Okay? Like, it died off in the early 90s. Alright? Like, keep it to yourselves at this point. Either leave that sport alone and don't talk about it, or pick a team, bro. Because either you're good or you're not. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, if you think our sport is so easy, like, it has complicated rules, but it's so easy, why don't you pick a team? Why don't you be a goal player? Why don't you win 6 Super Bowls in a row? Like, in a straight row, not through your career, every single time. I don't know why I'm hanging on England so much like I'm from France. But still, yeah, like I said, I'll provide a link to a video for a bit more of its history. So, yeah, if you want to get into it, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And if you want to provide your opinions, you can. Anyway, see you later, and just remember, stay ugly.